That's all right. Okay. All right.
Episode
For this,
one.
huh? Yeah. All right. Everybody who's listening, this is episode one of the Moses Strength Podcast. I'm James Moses. This is Joe Villa. And today we're talking about bench press, but more specifically, we're going to talk about trying to bench press 400 pounds and like kind of the path on how you would kind of work it out in order to get there, no matter kind of what your starting point is. But the first thing we'll start with is Joe, if you want to kind of break down brief maximal tension and how we use it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, yeah. So brief maximal tension is a really potent form of training for developing maximal strength in any given lift. Um, what's special about brief maximal tension is that, and this is a huge separator from other methods and programs you'd see out there, is that um, you can maintain your body weight, decrease your body weight. Obviously, if you increase, it's going to help even more, but it's not really impacted by body weight so much. It's so a lot of the strength gains you're getting are neurological based, and that's because you're lifting in this. You're lifting in a rep range, usually from what would be classified as from like a 2 to 5 rep max. So that's why it's brief maximal tension. It's not max ever. You're not maxing out, but to put it in layman's terms, you're touching that discharge frequency basically. And you know, the way we do it, we like to bench frequently at Moses Strength. We try to have the kids bench no more than 3 times a week, but 2 to 3 times a week is best if we can do that. And we do brief maximal tension each time. We work with a lot of fives, threes, fours, twos. Sometimes we even do ones, and we just kind of manipulate the reps like that, and we get really rapid improvements on the bench press doing that.
Yep. So brief maximal tension in like a practical application is going to look like 3 to 5 sets working from 1 to 5 reps.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the framework in which we work from it. So in terms of just getting the bench press up, we'll get into 405. We'll get into 405 a little later, but in terms of just getting the bench press up, um, the number one thing you can do, like Joe mentioned, is simply bench 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Um, Ideally, you have one day in between, so you're benching Monday, Wednesday, Friday, instead of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Um, but 3 times a week, the bench press needs frequency. Yes, you can drive it up with 2 times a week. Yes, you can drive it up with 1 time a week. But if you can push things to the absolute max and there's not going to be um, any injuries that arise, there's no reason to delay progress. And the bench press is a perfect example of it loves frequency. And so 3 times a week is the sweet spot in terms of driving it up as fast as possible, as efficient as possible. Um, so once you have the frequency kind of nailed down, the next thing you get into is accessory work. So what would you say are the number one, like if you could choose any exercises in the world, what are the go-to accessory exercises to drive up the bench press?
I would say really just if it was just a go-to and keeping it bare minimum, I would pick tricep press downs done the way we do them, and then I would do pause incline press.
Yep.
That's what I would, those are the best.
And I think what sometimes people mess up is when they do incline press, they usually go low incline. And
Yeah.
the key is a 45 degree.
Yeah. 100%. You're getting it's the lower the incline you go, it's you're getting too close to your flat bench. And so, incline has to serve as like a secondary variation lift, right? So you want your variation, whatever that is, And in the way we do it, and I think it's best to be, incline pause. Okay, well, so for one, we pause it. So that's already a variation itself, because we're doing touch and go bench like 99% of the time for the kids. And then we do a 45-degree incline, like you said, which is a lot different than flats, a lot harder. You're getting more front delts, you're getting your triceps are worked harder. When you go more flat, you're getting more pec. And also the way we bench, and bench for athletes, we're benching a lot more with our triceps. And so when you're doing like a low incline bench, like you were saying, you're working your triceps, but not as hard. And so we're doing like everything we can to get the strongest triceps, because the way we bench and the way we teach the bench is triceps. So why would we not want to bench that way? But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think people, they go too shallow on it. And one more thing I'll say about that, same thing with like, if you're going to do, if you were going to do like a close grip bench, people do the same thing you were saying. They may bench really wide. Well, I've seen, power lifters where it's like, they're like, oh, I'm doing a close grip block, and they just bring it in like one little finger. I'm like, that's not, you're not changing much. You have close grip, you have to go way a lot closer, kind of thing.
Yeah, so for our bench specifically, what our incline press specifically, what it looks like is 45-degree angle on the bench. You're going thumbs width away from the knurling, if not closer. And you're bringing it down to the chest, kind of right above the nipple line,
Right.
pausing for a good second, how you would on the box squat, and then pressing as hard as you can. And so in that you are getting the static overcome dynamic method, which is going to drive up rate of force development, as well as absolute strength.
Yep.
So that's kind of a bonus to do it that way. And then that's how we do the pause incline. And then with the tricep press downs, it's a very, 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 very strict press down to where you're pulling that bar into your chest. So it's kind of looking like you have T-Rex arms, and
Yeah.
it's a flexed wrist and a locked out elbow with no momentum given. So that's how we do those. Why would you? So sometimes what we see on Twitter is some people go, obviously, on the one end, you have the low incline, but why would you not go to the other end of the spectrum and do like a shoulder press in order to drive up
Yeah.
the bench press?
Yes, and that's a good question. And then really anybody would think that, because you think, okay, well, if I'm trying to make it harder, I'll just make it even harder. But the problem is just really, okay, you get to that point. Well, now you're getting, basically, you're just working your shoulders. You're just working all delts. You're getting probably the same tricep engagement you would on like a more shallow incline. And so you're working less triceps. And then, like I said, like, just 45 is just really in that sweet spot to where you're different enough to where it's a lot harder, and you're not getting the fatigue from this, because you can't bench and then just like bench again as a secondary lift. It has to be different. So 45 is different enough to where you're getting you're not getting the fatigue, but it's also similar enough to where it's having carryover, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. And then another common thing that comes up with you know, with a typical upper body lift is I think the in the CSCS or the NSCA, they typically teach like a 2-to-1 pull to press ratio.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, and honestly, uh, there's no, it's kind of just I've never abided by that and never run
Yeah.
into any health issues with the shoulders, with the chest. The if you're trying to drive up, the main thing on the upper body that you're looking for is to drive up the bench press, essentially. It's going to carry over really well to every sporting action. Yes, you can improve the lats, but the only thing you're looking for the upper body is strong lats and a big bench press.
Yeah.
And doing a 2-to-1 ratio just because of that arbitrary kind of number is irrelevant. Like all of our upper body lifting sessions are pretty much bench, accessory press, and a push down, along with some bicep work and some lat work with
Yeah.
lat pull downs or chin ups. So
Yeah.
obviously that would be a 3 to 2, kind of
Yeah.
pressing ratio. Never had any issues. So all right, so we've kind of gone over how frequent you should bench, um, the accessories you should be using in order to drive up the bench press. Now, we'll go into specifically benching 405. Um, so with benching 405, the first thing to remember is that the heavier you are, the easier it's going to be to bench 405.
Yeah.
That's just because if you weigh 400 pounds, benching 1 times your body weight is a lot easier than weighing 100 pounds and benching 3 times your body weight. So, but we'll get into it. Kind of talk about what your kind of uh road to the 405 looked like, and then how you kind of thought about it in order to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so basically, geez, okay. Um, where it really started to take off was I remember I was around 178 and I think I benched like three. I'd already been training, like doing brief maximal tension and all that. And I did like 330. I think I maxed out at 330, like touch and go. And I was like feeling like I was on a roll because I remember at that time I was just at that time focused on benching. Just I just wanted to get a double body weight bench. And I was like, well, geez, like I'm only really 35 pounds away. And I remember I hit the 330, and then like immediately after that, I started getting this tightness in my pec, and I kind of ignored it. And then one day I remember I was benching and I was like, yeah, that's like really hurting. So I was like, okay, let me stop. So I switched to literally just doing, I had to switch, had no choice to doing incline for like geez, I think it was like 8 or 9 months. It was, let's say 8 months of straight incline press. And when I stopped doing the incline press, I got up to a 315 incline, and then I ended up maxing out. I did 350 paused. And then, but I was heavier at that time. So I did gain weight. So I think that was like 195, right around there. And then again, things were going. But see, the problem was I did address the issue in the sense of I kind of like switched variants so the inflammation went away, but I didn't address what was causing that, and which is where my bar path, I was touching really high up on my chest, kind of like almost by my neck. And so when I would go down, my elbows were flared, and that's ended up causing me to then inflame my bicep tendon, which was really frustrating because when I switched back to flat bench, I ended up getting like some newbie gains because I hadn't benched in so long. And I remember I got to like 365 really quick, 365 paused. And I was like, geez, like I'm going to bench 405. And then I did that. So then I had like 4 weeks where I was just doing like dumbbell floor press, which sucked. I was like, man, I'm getting super weak. I went back. I was way weaker. I was like, oh my God. I think I could get I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I was probably right around 350 again. So okay, now I'm building up, and I remember it was just the biggest takeaway I'd say. I remember I was at the gym, and there was this guy in there benching like he was so strong. His warm up was like 135, 225, 315, 405. He wouldn't even. That's how strong. I mean, he was a freaking tank, and I asked the guy, I'm like, dude, I mean, I know you probably get asked this like all the time, but like, how do you bench so much weight? Like, what did you do? He's like, it just takes a lot of reps. And that's all he said. And it's like, I remember just thinking, I was like, no, he's right, but the biggest takeaway I say from when I healed my bicep tendon, I fixed my form, I was going in a straight line, was that really all it was just brief maximal tension, and just every week, roughly every week, I would miss reps. And there might be a week where maybe I got them because maybe I kind of had a little bit of a lighter week or something, but like almost all the time I missed reps. And you know, all the way there until like the very end when I was like kind of like right there and I locked it in like the last 3 weeks, and then I didn't miss reps and then I hit it. But like the road there was so ugly and not smooth. It was so much different than, don't want to get off on this, but like squatting, how we do squatting and stuff like that. The road there was so ugly. I was like, geez, like it never really felt like I would get there. And then you just kind of got there. It's kind of like, whoa, now I'm doing these reps that I was missing, but it just kind of goes. But yeah, the biggest thing was just fixing my bar path. I remember I watched this thing with Louis Simmons. He was like talking about some guy who kept tearing his pec, and he was like, dude, you got to just bench in a straight line. You got to stop doing this J curve stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try that. And I was weaker for like a week or two doing that, just going from right here straight up. But then I realized the tricep press downs have the most carryover when you bench in a straight line. And then that started to kind of click. But it was really just that and then missing reps. And then I would say that was the biggest thing. But it's really just perseverance through those missed reps, as I'd say.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into, you know, my last sort of month
Yeah.
where I haven't,
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a week where I've hit all the reps, but that's kind of the point. But
Your bench is going up a lot.
yeah, but
Yeah.
so for people trying to hit 405, like we've talked about it, but kind of the marker in order to max out at 405 is is what would you say in terms of sets, reps, and weight?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'd say,
It's kind of like backtrack it down.
okay. Yeah.
And
Oh, for sure. I would say, okay. Yeah. Backtrack it down. I'd say, because I never, when we talked about this the other day, I actually never did a set of like a weight above 365. So I'd say 365 for 3 to 4. Like, and when I say 4, that's like a rep max. Like you could get 4 and then literally miss all your other reps, but like a solid set of 3. Like if you can do 365 for 3, or like I said, squeeze out a fourth one right around there. If you get a fourth one, it might be a smoother 405. If you get 3, the stars are gonna have to align, it's gonna have to be perfect, but you have it in you. The second one would be, I would say, getting 345 for 5. That one is the toughest one because the reason is I don't have the math on me, but I think it's where you go when you get 345 for 5, you're teetering on that edge of a 5% jump where I believe it's like, let's say you're getting 335 or 330, I believe, for 5. It's like a 5, or it's one of those. Like if you do a 5% jump, it's not exactly 345 or something along the lines of that. And so
yeah,
going,
if you
yeah,
go 340, so 345 plus 5% is 362 and a half.
yeah, that's it. And
So it's
that's
not
why it's such
quite
a pain.
365.
Yeah, and that is why it is so hard. You'd think like, oh, that's only 2.5 pounds. No, it makes it so difficult. Because you usually, like, let's say you're a 315 guy. If you go 315 for 3, you'll get 300 for 5 usually, like something around that. Like that'll work, pan out usually pretty solid. 210 for 3, 200 for 5, etc. Um, but like when you have that gap right there, it is really hard if you get 365 for 3 and then drop down. Like that was for me, that was also like the hardest part. But yeah, that's what I'd say the numbers were. Some people want to say doing 315 for like 10 or whatever, but the way we bench, we don't do high reps like that. And I also don't think that's super accurate for other reasons. Somebody could be really good with reps and then they're not good at matching. So I would say the 365 and 345 are better indicators.
Yeah, and so how you basically when we're talking about like the 5%, essentially what we're doing is if you look at a pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is going to be your fives, and then the top of the pyramid is going to be your ones. And how you essentially figure that out, and how big of jumps you can make is each time you drop a rep, so you go from 5 reps to 4 reps, you add 5%.
Right.
And typically, when you do that, you're able to get the reps each time. So if you start out at, let's just do 225. If you do 225 for 5 reps, 5%, a 5% jump of 225 would be 236, which means you could get 235 for 4 reps. And then a 5% jump from 235 is 246, which means you can get 245 for 3 reps. And then if you keep going another 5% jump, that's 257. So 255 for 2 reps. And so how we can kind of figure out someone's max is if they can get 225 for 5 reps, like they're looking at 270, 275 is their
Yeah.
potential 1 rep max, like at minimum. Usually when you go to hit a 1 rep max, you can get a little bit more because when we're talking about 5% jumps, we're also including like 4 sets. So we're
Yeah.
going 4 sets of 5, and then your 5% jump is 4 sets of 4, and 4 sets of 3, 4 sets of 2. And if you can hit a 4 set of 1, 270, you can probably hit 280 for like a single.
Yeah.
Um, if you're doing it. But so the way Joe explained, if you can get 365 for 3 to 4 reps, essentially my goal is, well, if I can get it for 4 to 5 for 1 set, then I should be able to get it. So in order to like get up to that, we'll kind of talk about the missing reps. And I think what's hilarious, go ahead and
Mm.
explain the experience at the gym every time a kid does not hit his bench reps.
Yeah, I mean they literally think they're digressing. They're like, "Oh, I'm getting weaker." You hear all that stuff. The pouty faces, just it's always a bad. It's usually for I'd say like yeah, like nine out of 10 kind of kids, they're gonna have a bad day when they miss the reps kind of thing. Because they don't understand. And I mean, it's tough because I mean, even me, like when I was going to 405, I remember, man, if I didn't get my reps, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, geez, like it just like ruined my day. But it really takes a long time to notice, like, okay, as long as you are like at least in a solid maintenance or caloric surplus, and if you're in that region, if you miss reps, you're good. You are going to recover and you are going to get stronger. But yeah, the kids, they're new. They're new. They're green. So when they miss the reps, they look at it like, if you go anywhere else, you miss reps, that's bad. They go like, oh, we missed reps. We're getting worse. But with us, it's not
Yeah,
how that
because
works.
typically if you're missing reps somewhere else, they're probably not benching you over
Yeah.
80% of your max. And if you're missing reps with 80% of your max,
Yeah.
not really
What
sure
are we
what you're
doing?
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just looking back at this past week, it's like for or the past few weeks, I was supposed to go. So this is going we'll work I'll work forward. So we're gonna start at I'll start at something like not clean. So
Yeah.
this is going all the way back to um that's March 20th. This is all right. So this one is going to be the first day was March 16th. I had a 3x2 at 335 and I went 200, just absolutely horrible. I think it's
Yeah.
the first time I touched 335 in a while. 2 reps, horrible. So the next thing I did was a light day, 265, 4x4, smoked them, good to go. Then I went to, so I was at the top of the pyramid, 335 for twos. And obviously I was capped out. I wasn't going any higher. So we hit a light day, dropped back down to the lower part of the pyramid. And I was going 305 for 4 sets of 5. I went 5, 5, 4, 3. Missed 3 reps there. Then I repeated the day, but I did for a 5x5 this time, and I went 305, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4. Smoked it. And that's kind of the thing. Once you get borderline all the reps, maybe you missed that last rep of the last set, you're good to
Yeah.
make that kind of next jump.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I will
Me
say,
too.
as you'll see, like if I did go, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2. I could technically make the next jump, but
Yeah.
that next jump to fours would probably look like 4, 3, 2. Like it would just get super ugly. So we
Yeah.
try and get it nice clean sets before we make the jump.
Yeah.
So then we went 305 for fives, 5% jump to fours, 320 for 4 by 4. I went 4, 4, 3, 1. I haven't had a single day other than the light day of hitting all my reps so far.
Yeah.
Then I redo it, 5 by 4 at 320. I get
Yeah.
fours all the way across. So now we
Yeah.
make another jump to threes, 5% to threes. And I go 320 to 335. 4 sets of three. I go 3, 3, 2, 2. Miss reps there. And coming back to the 335 that I hit before, I only got it for 2 reps. And then this day I get 3, 6, 10 reps total
Yeah.
in less than 2.5 weeks.
Right.
So then moving up, I hit a light day. Then I went 350, 4 by 2. I went 2, 2, 1. That
Right.
smoked me. So now we're at the top of the pyramid. Then we drop back down to fives. 4 by 5 at 315, 5, 4, 2, 1. Redo it for a 4 by 5, five straight across. 5% jump to fours, 330, 4, 3, 3, 3. And that's the most recent one. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have a single, I might have maybe had out of 15, 18 bench days, I had 2 light days where I hit all the reps, and then maybe like 2 actual days where I hit all my reps on like real working
Yeah.
sets, and the bench still going straight up.
Yeah. I mean, so like, yeah, that's one thing I forgot to. There's multiple things to this. It's like one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is like brief maximal tension is, I believe, it's like 85 to 95%, or maybe even more of your 1 rep max, right? So, like you said, other places, you're going 80 or less percent or missing reps. What are we doing? Okay. So there's that aspect of it. So that's heavy. Well, with that, when you're lifting that heavy, obviously there's lots of adaptations that are occurring, but like, it's like you said, so a lot of the times, you just need to touch it. Meaning, like, let's say you go like a 4 by 3, you just need, or a 5 by 5, or a 4 by 5 is an even better example. But like, you
Use
just
Mariko
need.
for this example because I mean,
Yeah,
he just touches it.
Marito is, yeah. So Marito, geez, where was he at? That's why I'm glad we got the folders now. I would have been able to see it, but he was at like 275. He was stuck doing triples with that, and so I gave him like a light day, and then I think he did something like working up to doing. uh we were doing 275 for like one triple. Okay, so kind of like touching where he was, but just for one set, like triples all the way up. Then I was like, okay, we need to turn 275 into fives. And in order to do that, before that, right, it needs to be, it's already threes, we need to be fours. Well, so one thing you can do is, I was like, all right, I'll go 285 for doubles. And he got it. And then I'm like, in the same session, drop. It's usually, you can do that. It's another way to, another thing we do is kind of like, another method is like, potentiating the set. If you do 285 for two, and then I take away 10 pounds, well, now it's lighter and it's a, 5% under, you can usually smoke that. So he got it for fours. Okay, well, see right there, like you just said, as soon as they get that, I know they're good. Because I go, okay, even if I go another day and you miss the reps, it says in the CSCS textbook, once a motor unit has been recruited, it's easy to re-recruit it. It's like muscle memory. So once you do that, now it's like, okay, light day or whatever, you recover however long that takes. And then now we just do it again. But now we try to, like you said, let's clean it up. Let's do sets across. So now he did, I think the other day he did like, he had another day in there somewhere, but then he did 5 sets of 4 at 275. So then now we're doing exactly what you did. Now is next day in, we're going to flip it and try to get fives. But here's the good thing. Mariko's he's a big guy. He's eating even if he misses the reps and gets all fours, that's fine because he's already, for one, he's stronger than he was because he was only doing it for threes like a week or two ago. And then for two, that's a case where like light day, try it again. You know, kind of like right there. But he'll probably, even if he gets one set of five, well, look at that. We missed reps. Who cares? Now we recruited those motor units needed to do that. Now we just rest and we do it again, and then we just keep going. So you're right.
Yeah,
That was a very good example of that one.
because I think what kids don't understand is we'll just use a 365 for example. In order to hit 405 for sure on
Yeah,
bench, you need 365 for one set of five. If you get
yeah,
one set of five at 365,
you'll
light
smoke it,
day, going to 405, gonna smoke it.
smoke it. Yeah,
If you do a day and you have, so that's a going from 365 for one set of five to 405, I think that's a 10% jump because you'd go 385 and then you'd hit 405.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Would be 10%.
so so getting that one set of five is big. That's a 10% jump to the max.
Yeah,
Now, if you were to do 365 for four sets of five, we're talking about like 385 for four sets of four, 405 for four sets of three. Um, that would be 425 for four sets of two, and then
yeah,
potentially 445 for four sets of one,
yeah,
probably pushing 450, 455. So just
yeah,
that one set of five can get you that 10% jump. And so it's like
yeah.
you don't really need those extra sets to get the 10, 15, 20 pounds
Exactly.
added to the bench a month. If you do get
Yeah,
it, it's like, holy cow, we've just built a freak.
right.
Um, but you're eventually building up to that. It's like getting one set, 10% jump. Getting two sets, 12% jump. Three sets, 15, 20% jump to the
Yeah,
max. So like missing reps it's all part of the game.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, another kid, and we should honestly come back to this like in 2 months when some of these kids' just folders goes up. But like Justin, he actually got here by mistake because they loaded the weight run. I wanted him to go. I wanted him to go 200 for doubles, get that, and then go 190 for fours another day. Well, he actually did 200 for three. Since he's been with us, his max coming to us was, I believe, he said 175,
mhm.
maybe 180. Well, whatever. Who cares? Now he can do 190 for five,
Yeah,
and he hasn't even been here I that long. I
maybe a
mean,
month, month and a
maybe a
half.
month. So yeah, month and a half, and he's. I mean, I don't even if he can do 190 for five. I don't even know what he would do his max for. It's like a warm up now.
Mhm.
But for him, for example, the other day I gave him 4x5 with it. I said, okay, I've seen he did 200 for three by mistake. I'm like, all right, let's go five. Let's take 5% off. I'll take away two reps. Just sometimes sometimes I do that just to see, or add two reps. Sorry, add two reps. Say, okay, like I just told you, I really just needed him to get fours. So I'm like, but sometimes I'll go, okay, let's give fives if you see if you get one. As is, they don't know what I'm thinking. They just see the number. So they're gonna go for that five. I know he could probably get a four. Well, he got one set of five. He went 5, 4, and then I think like 2, 1. Totally bummed out. He's like, oh my God, oh, I'm missing reps. I go, dude, this is good. You literally just got this for five. We just made a huge jump from where you were at. Like we just, he rested over the weekend. I'll probably give him a medium day, something like that, and then we'll attack it again, but just keep going at it. But missing reps that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. That from my journey to 405, and then James, he's hauling butt there right now. And I've told like three kids now this week complaining about the reps to go tune in to James's Road to 405 and see how many times he's missing reps. But every week there's more weight on the bar. So,
Yep.
that's part of it,
Yeah, so I think we have like maybe like 4 minutes left. So
Yeah.
um just kind of wrapping up, this is kind of what the next Well, if everything goes smooth, 2 weeks, like I'd say probably not this coming Friday, but the next Friday, if everything goes smooth, I'll probably attempt 405 because
Yep.
it's looking like essentially I've gone, maybe not, maybe a week, one more week out. Because right
Yeah.
now I'm coming off a 4x4 at 3:30 and I went 4-3-3-3. So I did that on Friday. Today's Sunday. So I had Saturday was a lower day, Saturday was an off day. Today was a lower day, which means Monday I'll have 2 days of rest. So I'll
Yeah.
repeat that with the goal of getting um, all the reps. So instead of going 4-3-3-3, going 4-4-4-4.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make the jump to 345 because the goal is to get that to fours or fives. Because if I can
Yeah.
get that to fours or fives, then I can get 365 for four or five for a set.
Yeah.
So Monday's going to be 4x4 at 330. If that goes smooth, Wednesday's going to be a 4x3 at 345. I might throw a light day in for Friday, and then Monday the following week, flip that and go a 3x4 at 345.
Yeah.
And then I have the option of going, potentially 365 for three, one set, kind of working up to it. But I have a few things to kind of. It really depends on how everything moves and how everything
Mhm.
goes there. But the
Yeah.
one thing that I explain the bench press as, especially accessories, is your incline has to be within around 70% of your bench max. So the more that gap widens, the tougher it is to increase the max.
Yeah.
And I believe that the incline sort of builds the bottom half of the bench, whereas the off the chest, whereas the press downs are, you know, lockout.
Yeah.
And
That's a
so
good way to look
having,
at it.
yep, and so having those two are massive. So I mean, those are literally I've been doing bench, pause incline, chin ups, tricep press down, curls. That's
And
it.
that's that right there, real quick. That's really important too. One thing I forgot to mention, when I hit 4 or 5, I want to say I can't put an exact time on it, but like there was a good 2 months where I think right before I hit it, where my accessories did not change. It was the exact same reps and sets. No, not reps and sets actually probably the same, but like weights might have changed slightly for like press downs only.
Yep.
But like everything else was just clockwork. It wasn't, and you don't want to throw too much in there because you might do one extra thing, and that one extra thing is now it's one more thing you might have to recover from, and then it's going
Yeah.
to ruin the main stuff. And like
Oh,
you
things
said,
get things get so delicate when you're getting close
yeah,
to the top. To the
and
point
the
where like chin ups, if I go too hard, it'll just somehow throw everything off.
yeah, no, it does. I tell them that all the time. Like, with Logan, I literally put in his thing because he kept doing these freaking chains.
All right, I forgot to record the last couple minutes of that, but essentially what we were saying is if you push the accessories too much, you take away from the main lift. And Um, the goal is to drive up the bench press. Once we've driven up the bench press to a really, really good number, then we can kind of relax on the bench and focus on, maybe developing chin ups if we want to. But a 405 bench is going to do so much more for an athlete than a three plate chin up. So, but if an athlete wants to do that, then let's focus on bench first, then we can take time away from bench once we've accomplished that and focus on chin ups. Um, okay. Thank you for tuning in. Next week we are going to talk about um how we use the box squat to predict and to improve the 40-yard dash. Today we had some kids from local high school come out and run 40s on our Brower timers. That's a smart sensor start with the laser finish, so pretty much as strict as you can get, and the times line up almost perfect. You'll see next week when we explain it, but the times line up almost perfectly for uh, this how much they squat at a certain speed carried over to what they run on the Brower timers with the setup that we have. So if you're interested in how to learn how to box squat in order to sprint faster and directly improve the 40-yard dash, that will be next week's episode. Thank you for tuning in this week. See you next week.